Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's some reference been made to the cost of bringing Councillor Douglas on board, and I'd just like to comment that the payback on that, 15,000 or whatever the figure was, is a very major multiple or multiplier of that, given that Councillor Douglas was the prime mover for this final sharpening of the pencil on behalf of the ratepayers. So he deserves credit for that. But you know, when there is need to economise, then everything's got to be up for consideration, and this is one of them. It's not cancelled out. The equipment's still there. People will still be able to, after this meeting, observe the bald spot on the back of my head, which will be of great interest to them, no doubt. So I believe that the recommendations for adjustments should stay as they are.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I understand where Councillor Ramsdell's coming from. It's just a shame she wasn't unable to attend the workshop, where perhaps it was more fully explained and discussed. What we have done here, Mr. Chairman, is made a choice to reduce the rate take off the ratepayer this year, and there's very good reasons for that. And when you get to the situation as we were last week, where we had to cut some services to achieve the end, as Councillor Dick said, it's all up for grabs. And I felt terribly disappointed, and I always felt I had failed a bit by agreeing to take 30,000 out of the Apitukutuk drainage scheme, because of flood and drainage control is very much what I'm interested in about in this council. But I agreed with great reluctance to see that reduced from 320 to 290,000 to achieve a lesser rate demand for this year. And I put it to you, Mr. Chairman, that we all have our favourites on council, irrespective of what role or where we come from as councillors. We all have our favourite projects, and certainly webcasting, probably for Councillor Rem as well, is one of those things that's right up there with her. But I think, Mr. Chairman, if I could say through you to her, that perhaps other councillors also felt that they were being done in the eye or had to give away on some of their favourite schemes to achieve this overall rate reduction. I also make the point, strengthen the point that Councillor McGregor made, that say that the reduction of the webcasting by eliminating the committee meetings for this year is only a one-year program. It's a short-term result to reduce to bringing the rates back to a more acceptable level, which I believe overall, Mr. Chairman, the ratepayer would far sooner have a lesser rate take this year and a lesser amount of webcasting to balance that out. Whether they'll be quite so happy with 30,000 coming off the drainage scheme, I'm not quite so sure about.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In summing up, I haven't heard from everybody, so I actually don't know which way this vote is going to go. But I will again request councillors to please support this motion for the sake of democracy, Mr. Chair, and for the sake of all those people out there who don't get the chance to come to our meetings and hear what we say. It's $10,000. Councillor Douglas suggested that I suggest other ways of that, which isn't actually in the scope of this debate. But if it can't come out of the community engagement budget, which is, I believe, over $400,000, then I would suggest that we have sandwiches for lunches instead of a two-course meal that we have, and save the money that way. And I attended a meeting along with Councillor Douglas and Councillor McGregor last night in the packed Clive Hall. There was standing room only, and there was a lot of faces that I'd never seen there before. It was run by Transparent Hawke's Bay. Now, Mr. Chair, there is an increasing call for transparency around this council and for accountability and real democracy. And that's a call that is echoed worldwide, and that's why there's people out there rioting and demonstrating in the streets of Brazil because they're not satisfied with their government and the way they're spending money, Mr. Chair. So this is one way of this council just responding to that very important call for transparency and democracy and letting our deliberations, our thoughts, the explanations. And one of the things that you get at committee meetings is you get the explanations of the staff describing what's going on and so on. This is a way of informing our community, and I would recommend strongly that my colleagues support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Pardon me? Oh. Which is now on camera. Okay, so it lapses, it fails. Oh, you like a division? All those in favour? And against. So we revert to the original, and I believe, Councillor Douglas, you've reserved your right to speak. Do you wish to speak now? Don't want to speak at all? Or okay. Sum up? Oh, you wish to speak? Councillor Gilbertson? Sorry, excuse me. Councillor Gilbertson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, following on from that debate, I just want to express my disappointment. As I said originally, look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves, and I was disappointed at our workshop the other day. I brought up several things where I thought we could make savings, and they're all, as I said at the time, sunk without trace. And I'll just go through them because I think it's important. And it's saving $10,000 on the webcasting. We spent, not this year but last year, $650,000 on vehicles. We run a system where each department has its own vehicles, and they're not particularly linked to each other. So I had a situation a while back where one of my constituents rang up slightly annoyed because he had an appointment with someone over water consent, and they'd rung up and said, I can't get there because there's no vehicle available. Now, at that time, as I've said frequently, there are lots of vehicles sitting in the car park, but they're not available to that department because they're not cross-referenced very often. So it was disappointing that that's $650,000 for cars. Travel was $186,000, legal fees $250,000, and accommodation $186,000. One of the things we could do about accommodation and travel presumably is put in a Skype system for $40,000, which I've told the council before. John Bostock's got one. I think he said it cost him $40,000 to have the state-of-the-art Skyping system, which he paid off in 6 months through reduced accommodation and travel costs through consultants and people coming to see him. So when we say we've done this massive effort to try and control costs to keep the rates down in a time when we've had the worst drought for 50 years, I don't buy that. I think we could have made much more of an effort. And as Councillor Rose has said, to take $30,000 out of the Upper Tukiduk scheme when we could have looked at a Skype system, to me, is really bad direction to staff and bad actions on the parts of the council. We don't have an audit and finance committee. To my amazement, at that workshop, someone suggested, as Councillor Curtin suggested many years ago, and I suggested when I first got here, that if we had a finance committee and an audit committee, we could make more rational decisions. Instead, we just pass it over to the staff and ask them to come back. And the point arising from that, as Councillor Liddick said last time, we employ these highly qualified staff to make the decisions, and that's quite true, but there is a tension at this time of year between the staff, who want to spend lots and lots of money to do a really good job, which is their role. Their role is to get the maximum amount out of the ratepayers to do the best job they can. Our role, there's a tension there, because our role is to make sure that we give them enough money that the ratepayers can afford. And what we did last week was we went to the staff and said, you guys come back with a proposal, what you think's best. We abrogated our responsibilities to the ratepayers by saying to them, you do what you like. And in that sense, the Upper Tukiduk scheme reduction and the council is not looking at the things I've mentioned, I think is an abrogation of our responsibility and, in a sense, a betrayal of the ratepayers. We need to take ownership of this budget, and I really believe, as an absolute case in point, because I went through an identical situation in Central Hawke's Bay as the mayor there, we had vehicles sitting around day in, day out. It took 4 years to reorganise the staff to actually have a decent system of allocating vehicles and saving money. As I say, if we did that sort of thing, we would not be talking about the webcast and the other things. I really think it's time after 6 years, and I may well not be here next year to tell you, to repeat myself, For a start, we need a finance and an audit committee to look into these things. We need much more responsibility by councillors to take responsibility for the budget and any cuts we make. And I would say that in that case, if we do that, looking after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. So I express my disappointment at the way this has gone. We've done some great things, and I don't want to be seen to be totally negative about what we've done. We do some great work, we do some fantastic work in this council, but I really think that we should look at the places where we can make improvements, and rather than skim over them and say what a good job we do, we should address them. So again, 95% of what we've done is great, 5% is really disappointing, and I would really like to concentrate on the 5%.
Not wanting to dispute anything, Councillor, but we do use Skype and we have saved a fair bit by using Skype. Any other speakers? Councillor Ramswell, you wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to support this because I just to pick up on something that was actually a staff in the staff workshop. We risk very negative publicity over, for example, reconsidering the webcasting, having just paid approximately 30k capital for the installation. But that's just one point. There is other ways that we could have saved money. For example, the lawyers' bills. I made a suggestion that we get an in-house lawyer, and I think that would still be a good solution. We've got lawyers' bills, totalling over $1 million, and these are ongoing. So I think we could save a lot of money by having an in-house lawyer. And for example,
you have a point of order.
I made a.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm reluctant to interrupt the flow of the councillor's speech, but she is introducing new material. We're discussing the annual plan, which has been and gone. She was unable to attend any of the annual plan meetings or indeed the workshop following, which we accepted her apology for that. But
Point
she
of
can't.
Order, Mr. Chair. This is in the material.
No. Just let me say.
This is not my new.
You can't actually introduce a lot of new material into a debate simply to recommend some decisions that have already been made. It's perfectly relevant at the time we discuss the annual plan.
Order, hang on. Let's get some order back in this debate.
Point of order,
order, Councillor. I am speaking.
Excuse me.
There is. You do raise a good point, Councillor. Councillor Rose. However, standing order to put that against, I'm not sure where it exists. However, Councillor Remerswell, you were a lot of conjecture in your speech here. There is not frivolous spending on lawyers' fees. We run a public body. We are challenged daily, and frankly, we need to keep some common sense in your discussion, please.
You're still speaking? No.
Yeah, I think it's quite okay, Mr. Chair, for councillors to have different opinions, and I haven't seen the standing orders that anywhere it says that
I've dealt with that, Councillor. Can you please continue?
Well, this is all material that is relating to our annual plan spending, and it's my responsibility as a councillor, having read all the relevant material, etc., and the submissions.
You do not need to explain that, Councillor.
What is going on? Thank you. We do spend, in my opinion, a massive amount on lawyers, and for example, when I made with permission a 5-minute we got a bill for $800, which is completely excessive. I think we should look at trimming off that kind of money. We should also look at trimming some of the spending that we do with the Ruatawhiti Dam project that has huge spending money that just seems to be unlimited, and to the extent of putting out a brand new big picture publication when
all based on decisions, Councillor, that have been made around this table, which you have been a part of. Make your point, please. So,
well, I'm entitled to have a different opinion to my colleagues, and it's in fact my job, Mr. Chair. So you
need to speak facts, though. I'm sorry.
What question of facts are you questioning me on?
Continue. Substantiate your claims, or I will shut you down.
What are you challenging me? What facts are you? We did produce a new big picture when there had just been one published the week before, which was solely about the dam, just in response to negative publicity in the media, Mr. Chair. That's what I was referring to. I think that's factual. As I have earlier outlined, Mr. Chair, this is a council which is under scrutiny both locally and nationally for our decision making. We are at the forefront of decision making in response to government policy on irrigation and acceleration. But I tell you that we are not bringing the public with us on this point, and I think we need to be more careful with that. So I'm not going to support this